So just let me know if you guys can see me, hear me. Okay, good. Looks like the chat's working now. Thank you, Alicia. Fantastic. JD, thank you. Awesome, guys. Appreciate it. And it's always fun to kind of find out where you guys are watching from today. So in the chat there, let me know where you're watching from, what state, what city. It's always fun. Ohio, awesome. We can see, thank you, Carlos. Maui, awesome. Alabama, Ohio again. Fantastic. Florida, Tustin. Okay. Welcome, guys. We're excited to have you here today. A couple things before we get started, just some insights that we have found to be the most successful action items to receive the best out of the webinar today. Number one is make sure that you're in a quiet area. It's the last thing you want is to be distracted or someone talking behind you, or where you're just not able to hear me, because I guarantee there's going to be something I'm going to say today that you're going to want to be able to hear. And the second one is make sure that you have something to write on, a piece of paper, a pen, some notes. You're going to want to write down notes and want to refer back to them at a later time, because there is going to be a lot of information I'm going to be giving you guys today. And I want to make sure you gather as much as possible and you can take home as much information as possible today as well. So today I'm going to be going over with you the top 3 secrets that are preventing you from reversing your diabetes. Now, this is a very important concept, because what I want you to understand, number one, this is not a weight loss program. This is not about how we can lower blood sugars, but I'm going to be discussing today of how you can actually reverse your diabetes, literally become non-diabetic. And yes, that's absolutely possible. And these are the types of things that we see in our practice with our practice members every single day. We see our practice members reducing and eliminating medications across the board. We see them getting off their blood sugar medication, blood pressure, cholesterol, etc. We see our patients reducing and eliminating or reducing weight with little to no exercise. And of course, we see them reducing the risks of future complications associated with diabetes. And this is just not because they feel better. We can actually see this in black and white data on their testing. So make sure that you stay to the end, because I guarantee it will be worth your time. I'm going to show you the simplest and fastest path to help you reverse your diabetes for good. And the fact that you're here is telling me a couple things. Number one, you're looking for a proven process to help you reverse your diabetes, not just manage, but actually reverse it. Number two, you don't want to take one medication after another. I know that many of you are taking, upwards of 7, 8, 9, 10 plus medications every day. And many of you are really just sick of it, because that's the only recommendations you're getting from your medical practitioners. And you're not looking for an extreme diet or weight loss program. If you are, this is not the webinar for you, because we're not going to be talking about that today. We're going to be talking about specific steps that you can take to reverse your diabetes immediately. You're concerned about your future and your potential risks of complications. If one of these 4 statements resonate with you, you are in the right place. You are in the right webinar. You're going to get a lot of value out of today. But because I'm very transparent with the individuals that I work with, and I expect them to be transparent as well with me, if one or more of these statements resonate with you, you're just not going to get a lot of value out of the webinar. So if you have not been diagnosed with a diabetic condition, or you are currently a pre-diabetic, if you are currently happy with your results, and if you're not concerned about your future with diabetes, this webinar is just not going to be the best option for you. You're not going to get a lot of value out of it. So I would completely understand if you want to jump off now, not to waste your time, because we will be discussing things here for the next 45 minutes to an hour. So a little bit about me. This is my family, my wife, Michelle, my 2 kids, Breck and Paige. They are twins. And it's just been an incredible journey seeing these guys get older. They'll be turning 7 in December. For those of you who have kids, now you just understand it just flies by so fast. I can't believe they're already going to be 7. A little bit about me professionally. For those of you who do not know, my name is Dr. Jason Schumard. I've been in practice. We've helped thousands of individuals with chronic diseases get back to optimal health again. And my mission is to have the ability to get your health back again, and so you can live a life free of disease. So you can live a life free of disease and symptoms. So it's so massively important that we understand as human beings that we have this amazing ability to heal. The problem is, for most of you right now that are on the webinar, you're living in an environment that is not conducive to healing. We have to figure out what that is for you and figure out how we can get you back to a place where you can finally start healing again, i.e. reversing your diabetes. But one of the things that I really love to start with when I do this webinar is I love to start with what I refer to as the diabetic story. Now, many of you are probably saying, well, I'm living the diabetic story. I've been dealing with this for X amount of years, but it's important to somewhat go back and relive that to an extent. But also, there are some of you who have just been diagnosed with this condition and you really don't know what's coming down the pipeline. So it's important to understand that story of where things are headed with your diabetes. So what we know about diabetes and individuals who get diagnosed with diabetes is they typically get diagnosed on a routine office visit. And this may sound something similar to your story as well. But for most people, they go in to see their doctor for some other reason. It could be a yearly physical or a checkup, or maybe it's for a life insurance policy. And what typically happens at those visits is they're going to draw some blood. You leave the office thinking no big deal. You've had blood drawn before. No issues whatsoever are going to be happening. But you do get a phone call about a week or so later from your doctor's office. And the person on the other end says, the doctor has the results of your blood work and he or she would like to go over the results with you. Now, already you're thinking, oh, what's going on here? I just went in for a routine office visit and now they're calling me back to review testing. No, usually no news is good news for medical system, but when you're having there's some news going on, there's usually something going on. So you schedule your appointment, you show up for your appointment, the doctor finally comes in and says, we have the results of your blood work, and unfortunately, you have type 2 diabetes. Now, I've heard this story so many times before in the past, thousands of times, if you will, that I almost feel like it's my story to some extent. But before the doctor can even say the words type 2 diabetes, he or she is ripping the first prescription off and saying, here, try this. And by the way, change your diet, exercise, and lose some weight. And my guess is that most of you right now who are partaking in this story are nodding your head saying, yep, that's pretty much the extent of my appointment wins. And the frustrating thing for most people that I talk to is that's pretty much the extent of your counseling that you're going to get for the rest of your life. Meaning, take this medication, increase this medication, change your diet, exercise, and lose some weight, with really no specifics of what to do. Meaning, what type of food should you be eating? How much food should you be eating? How much weight do you need to lose? What type of exercise regimen do you need to be doing? You're pretty much left to figure this out on your own. And for most people, and probably a lot of you on the webinar here today, you leave your doctor's office and you somewhat figure it out. You go onto Dr. Google or some other area and start figuring out what you should be eating, how much food you should be eating, what weight loss you should be at, what kind of exercises. And for most of you, you're going to do a really good job in managing or helping to lower your blood sugars. And your doctor is usually going to be congratulating you along the way. But there are some of you right now that could be in this situation that are telling yourself, I feel fine. I don't have any symptoms. I feel fine. I just have a diagnosis of diabetes, and you're not taking this seriously. And I would urge you to really pay attention to this story, because what we know about diabetes is that it's a progressive disease process. And what does progressive mean? That means it's going to get worse no matter what you do. So for even those of you right now that are doing a really good job of managing your blood sugars and trying to do the best you can, and you're keeping your A1C at a good range, eventually over time, your blood sugars are going to worsen and things are going to progress, because diabetes is a progressive disease process. And I'm going to explain to you exactly the reason why this continues to happen. But for most people who are diagnosed with an initial diagnosis of diabetes, they're going to be given an initial medication called metformin. Many of you are probably taking that right now, or you have been taking that medication at one time in your life. And let's just say, depending on the prescribing habits of your physician, that they give you 1,000 milligrams per day. It could be 500 in the morning, 500 at night, 1,000 milligrams at one time, whatever it might be. That's typically an initial introduction dosage. So you start taking the medication in conjunction with the lifestyle changes, and initially you're doing a really good job. Your doctor's high-fiving you, your A1C is staying in range, your blood sugars are in range, everything is going really well. But again, because we know diabetes is a progressive disease process, eventually over time, the blood sugars start to rise. The A1C starts to increase. Your doctor is looking at the numbers. He or she is not really happy with the way things and the trends are going. So he or she says, let's go ahead and increase their dosage. Just go ahead and increase the medication at this point. So now you're taking 2,000 milligrams of metformin per day, which is 1,000 morning, 1,000 at night, which is essentially the max dosage of metformin. And again, once you increase that medication, what happens? The blood sugars come down in conjunction with your lifestyle. Everything's going well. And for a period of time, that continues until what? The numbers start to go in the wrong direction again. The trends are rising, the A1C is increasing, your doctor's looking at things and saying, I don't like the way things are going here. We need to go ahead and add on an additional medication. So now, not only do you continue taking the metformin, but you're now adding on an additional medication. Typically, it's going to be an oral medication. That could be glipizide, glyburide, glimepiride, Januvia, Janumet, whatever medication they recommend for you. There are over 500 FDA-approved medications for blood sugar. Trust me, you're not going to run out of the recommendations there. So now you're taking your first oral medication, your second oral medication, and what happens? Blood sugars come down again. And this continuation of this roller coaster continues over time. But what's interesting is in this phase, we'll call it phase 2 of your process of being a diabetic, you're now on your second oral medication, is where symptoms start to increase. Now, the symptoms are really minor at this phase, and they're not really problematic, meaning debilitated, but things are starting to progress in the wrong direction. So your blood pressure starts to increase a little bit. The cholesterol is on the rise. You start to have some digestive discomfort, maybe some fatigue, some weight gain. Maybe you're having some brain fog. Your sleep is becoming a little bit more of an issue. You're waking up multiple times at night to use the bathroom. And sometimes it can be difficult to get back to sleep. You start having some like little pins and needles or numbness and tingling in your feet or your extremities, not to the point where it's debilitating, but it's more of a nagging situation. And so next thing you know, as these symptoms continue to mount over time, the doctor's just giving you what? More and more medication. So the blood pressure, you get a blood pressure medication, the cholesterol-lowering medication, maybe something for your digestion like omeprazole, maybe something for the neuropathy like gabapentin, something for sleeping, et cetera, et cetera. And the next thing you know, you will go from taking 1 or 2 oral medications to 8, 9, 10 plus medications every single day, and you still don't feel well. And as this continuation of this cycle happens over time, not only are you adding on additional medications for the other symptoms, but as your blood sugars start to change, they start to increase, the doctor just keeps on compiling and increasing the dosage until you've maxed out your second oral medication. So now you're maxed out on your first oral medication, you're maxed out on your second oral medication. What's next? Typically for a diabetic will lead towards insulin. So let me repeat that. All roads eventually will lead towards insulin as a diabetic. That doesn't, but for a majority, a good percentage will eventually be put on insulin. Why? Because diabetes is a progressive disease process. It's going to get worse. Please do not wait until the symptoms get bad. Now, the conversation typically at this stage happens, well, we're going to go ahead and put you on insulin, Mr. Smith. And the reason for that is because your blood sugar is no longer under control. The oral medication is no longer working. Do you think that they stopped the oral medication? Of course not. They keep you on the oral medication with the insulin. And maybe it's 10 units, 15 units, 20 units, whatever it might be. But again, because insulin does work, it does bring down your blood sugars, things start to stabilize again, and your blood sugars are under control. But again, because diabetes is a progressive disease process, over time, the amount of insulin you're taking just starts to clog the system even more and make things worse over time. Because what sense does it make to give an insulin resistant patient more insulin? But that's the only option that you have in the medical system. So as your blood sugars start to rise, you have no other option but to continue to increasing the insulin and can constantly just keep on increasing until the blood sugars come down. It's not uncommon for us to see patients taking 50, 100, 150 plus units of insulin every single day. And what's interesting as the amount of insulin increases, the complications that you were starting to experience or the symptoms in phase 2 start to escalate. So now it may take 1 or 2, potentially up to 3 oral medications for your blood pressure situation, maybe 1 or 2 medications for your cholesterol, a second or third oral medication for the digestive issues. Maybe you're taking a stronger dosage for things for your neuropathy, but things are just progressing. The symptoms are getting worse and worse, and the quality of your life is becoming more and more debilitated. And the one thing that we know about diabetes that I don't like talking about, I'm certain that you don't like hearing about this. Your doctors probably don't like talking to you about it either. But what we know about diabetes is that it increases the risk of an early death. That means that the research tells us that if you become diagnosed as a diabetic, you immediately reduce the chance of your lifetime by about 10 years, unless you were able to reverse your diabetes. So that means 10 years less with your loved ones, your significant other, your spouse, your kids, your grandkids, your job that you may love, whatever that might be. Just having a diagnosis alone reduces your lifespan as a diabetic. This is not what I'm saying. This is clearly in the research, so we know this is out there. So why do I get so deep into this story? Because it's important that you understand the progression, because I know that some of you right now are saying to yourself, I feel fine. I'm just diabetic. And it's because the progression of the disease hasn't happened far enough yet. If you wait for the symptoms to occur, it's too late. And how do I know this? I know this because my story started roughly about 20 years ago. And that's when my mom was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And like many of you, my guess is that I thought that, hey, she can manage this with lifestyle, with medication. The medical system can help her live the quality of life that she wants to live for as long as she needs to live for. But what I noticed over the years is my mom was progressing with her diabetes condition. The same type of problems that I just went over with you were happening with her. The quality of her life started to decline. She was increasing medication. Eventually, she got on insulin. And when she got on insulin, things started to rapidly decrease in her quality of life. She was no longer able to do normal activities. She was extremely tired all the time, started to become very frail. She lost an extreme amount of weight. She was having multiple injuries. And over time, as her disease progressed and the medication started to destroy her body, things started breaking down even further. Eventually, her kidneys completely failed, where she was required to be on dialysis for 3 days a week for 3 hours out of a time, which caused extreme discomfort, extreme fatigue, where she pretty much was bedridden the whole entire time. And then eventually she had a stroke. Now, fortunately for her, they were able to remove the stroke, but because of the destruction that was going on inside my mom's body, she never made it out of the hospital. And so we laid her down to rest almost a year ago from a disease process called diabetes that destroyed and killed my mom. Now, some of you may be asking yourself right now, well, Dr. Shimard, you're talking about how you can reverse diabetes. How come you weren't able to help your mom? And what I learned, and that's my mom's story, is I learned a very, very valuable lesson that I now take with every single time I evaluate someone in my office. And what I learned was that not everybody wants to reverse their diabetes. You see, in my mom's situation, when I finally came to her and gave her the information that I had learned, and as I educated myself and became more familiar with diabetes and how I can reverse diabetes, she was not interested in doing the steps that were required. You see, she believed that what she was doing was the best thing for her, that if she just continued with her lifestyle, her recommendations that her doctors gave her, taking her medication, that it was going to give her the ability to live that quality of life. And the lesson that my mom learned was that she chose the wrong path, because the only path that she was on was progression of her disease process, and eventually it destroyed and killed her. So the lesson that I learned was that I can't help everybody. I can only help the individuals who are willing to do whatever is necessary, who are willing to put their health as their number one priority and do what's necessary to reverse this disease. Because I will warn you from this point on that this is not just sitting back and eating bonbons all day and expecting a result. This requires work. This requires energy. But if you put in the work, you put in the energy, you will reverse your diabetic condition. So the steps that we have to take in place for this is we first have to understand what you're currently doing right now and what you need to do to actually reverse your diabetes. See, most of you are partaking in what's considered the traditional medical model, but many of you don't know about the functional health model. So let's define both of those so you know. The traditional medical model focuses on your symptoms. And when you have a symptom, they're going to give you a pharmaceutical drug or a medication to address the symptom and help you manage that condition. This is a very important statement here. So you're going to manage. You probably have heard this before from your doctors telling you, we're here to manage your diabetes or help you manage your blood sugars. Well, the functional model doesn't take the approach of helping you manage. We focus on the cause. Because think about this. For those of you right now who are watching that are type 2 diabetic, at one time in your life, you were able to regulate and manage your own blood sugars. So you ate what you wanted to eat, you drank what you wanted to drink, and the next day you had normal blood sugars. So that means at one time you had the ability to normally regulate your blood sugars. So what has changed? Something has to have broken down inside your body that is no longer working appropriately, that's causing you to have the inability to regulate your blood sugars. That's what we have to understand what it is in your specific situation. We use advanced research-based lifestyle solutions. You do not need medications to reverse diabetes. The fact is, there is no medication on the market that has been shown to reverse diabetes. The medications you're currently taking have been shown to help you lower blood sugars, but that's not reversing diabetes, and I'll prove it to you in a moment. We can use more natural lifestyle solutions to help you reverse your diabetes. And we reverse diabetes by finding and addressing the cause of your symptoms, not addressing your symptoms, but what is causing your symptoms. And I'll give you a little sneak peek here. Your elevated blood sugars is not the cause of your diabetes. It's a symptom of your diabetes. You see, once we understand what's causing your diabetic condition, we can then put together an approach to help you reverse your diabetes. But I can tell you this, your cause is going to be unique to you. So what does that mean? That means it cannot be a one-size-fits-all approach. It has to be customized to your specific situation. But if I were to guess right now, and I asked every single one of you, looks like we've got about 53 people on the webinar right now. But if I were to ask every single one of you what your current treatment is, every single one of you would tell me the same thing. You've changed your diet, you're exercising, you're trying to lose weight, you're taking medication. That's a one-size-fits-all approach. That will not reverse your diabetes because it's not unique to your specific situation. Once we understand what is specifically causing your diabetic condition, we can then target and create a solution to help you reverse diabetes. If you do not look for the cause, you can't address the cause. And many of you are probably thinking right now to yourself, well, if this were true, why isn't my doctor telling me this? Or, I've done other programs, they don't work, or it's going to take too much time, it's going to cost too much money. Every single individual, thousands of individuals that I've worked with in the past have had the same exact questions. They've had the same exact responses. But every single one of them that has been successful in my practice, the reason why they've been successful is because they had 3 keys to success. The first one is you must be willing and coachable and taking action. If you're going to sit on the bench and expect to get results, that's never going to happen. You have to get into the game if you want to score the touchdown or score the goal. Number 2, you must focus on progress. You do not need to be perfect. And the last one is you must commit to never letting your self-doubt stop you from having what you want. What is your why? If your why is, I just want to get off medications and I want to lower blood sugars, you're not going to reverse diabetes. Your why has to be so massive that you will run through walls to achieve it because it's that important for you. If this condition is not at the top of your priorities because you know what's the worst case scenario is an early death. So if you have a disease process that will increase the risk of death, what else can be more important than that disease process inside your body? So think about for yourself right now, what is your why? Why do you want to reverse your diabetes? And if it's not massively important that you're willing to do whatever it takes, I guarantee you will fail. Your why has to be big enough. This is part of our evaluation process. Once you understand your why, then you know you can do this. I know you can do this. Even if you've tried other things that obviously have not worked, which is the reason why you're here today, you can do this once your why is massive enough and then once you understand what's truly going on. Imagine what it would be like to be a non-diabetic. Let me repeat that. A non-diabetic, not a diabetic with a managed A1C, not a diabetic with blood sugars that are being managed. I mean, you have normal blood sugars between 85 and 100, an A1C between 5.2 to 5.6, and no medication. That is 100% possible. Imagine not having to take medication every day, pricking your finger to check your blood sugars, worrying about what you ate the night before and what your blood sugars are going to be doing the next day, or the risk of complications and, of course, an early death. What would it be like to spend the quality of time with your loved ones, your wife, your husband, your significant other, your kids, your grandkids, travel freely, being able to do things you want to do and not have to think about, oh my gosh, is XYZ going to happen to me down the road if I don't take care of this? But putting diabetes in the rearview mirror. All of these things are achievable, but the only way they become achievable is you first have to understand what is causing your diabetes in the first place. You see, the problem is for most of you, you're focusing on what's considered standard of care. And you're focusing on changing your diet, exercising, losing weight, etc., and taking medication, etc. Are these things designed to reverse diabetes? No. What are they designed to do? They're designed to lower blood sugars. And for many people, it does a pretty good job. Some of you may be managing your blood sugars right now and doing a pretty good job. But what would happen to you if you stopped that restricted lifestyle? What would happen to your blood sugars? They're going to go right back up. So that's not creating a solution. So our secret number 1 is that I mentioned to you, as I pulled the cat out of the bag earlier for you, is that your elevated blood sugars is not the cause of diabetes or the cause of your diabetes. Your elevated blood sugars is a symptom of your diabetic condition, not the cause. And how do we know this? We know this because, yes, you can do those things to try to lower your blood sugars, right? You can change your diet, you can lose weight, you can exercise, you can, reduce sugar, take your medications, and they'll lower blood sugars. But again, if you stop or slow down that strict regimen, your blood sugars go right back up again. So it's not creating a solution. It's only managing the situation. And we know this not only from experience or case studies, but it's actually in the research. They're telling you in the research, but nobody's typically looking. This was a study done in 2019. And the study says a large study by Kaiser Permanente found a diabetes remission rate of 0.23% with standard of care. Again, what is standard of care? This is standard of care. Change your diet, exercise, lose weight, take your medication to lower blood sugars. So that means if you follow that regimen, you have a 1 in 400% chance of reversing your diabetes. 1 in 400 people reverse their diabetes following that regimen. And most of you are following that regimen because you don't know what else to do. So the point is the standard of care recommendations will never, I shouldn't say never, will have a 1 in 400 chance of reversing your diabetes. Does that sound good to you? Who's going to sign up for that when you know you're essentially being set up to fail? This is why diabetes is a progressive process, because you're focusing on lowering blood sugars. And don't get me wrong, lowering blood sugars is an important thing. But if your goal is to manage blood sugars and that's it, and you're okay with the progression of your disease process, then you're doing the right thing and continue doing that. But if your goal is to reverse diabetes, that's never going to get you there. So then the real question is, and what is causing your diabetic condition? See, what we have to understand is, if we understand the human physiology, and physiology tells us that your glucose, your blood sugars, is an important step in our functionality of how our body works. But the reality is there's something going on that's broken inside your body. So what is that? Well, if we look at physiology, your sugars is essentially a fuel source for your cells. Just like if you were to put gas in your car to drive down the road, well, your body needs sugar. So at a cellular level, there's these little doors that open and close that allow sugars to come into the cell. The cell then uses the fuel and then is able to function at a higher level. But what do we see with diabetics? With diabetics, those doors are shut. And when enough of those cells, doors are shut, the sugars have nowhere else to go but back into the bloodstream. So if we continue to focus on lowering blood sugars only, is that going to fix the cells? No. So then the question is, I guess we should back up and say, so the reality is that diabetes is a cellular disease, not a blood sugar issue. It's a cellular disease. So then the question you should be asking yourself, and maybe if your doctors at this point, is, what's causing those cellular doors to be shut for you? And so here's a couple of examples of things that we see in our practice that are contributing to those cellular doors to shut. Now, obviously, for some of you, very small percentage, it could be the pancreas. And maybe your pancreas isn't producing enough insulin and that's the underlying issue. But I will tell you, I rarely ever see that as a problem. I might see that once every 2 to 3 years. It is that rare. So it's easily can be tested, and it's very commonly not an issue. But we do see a lot of problems with the liver. And the liver is one of its major jobs is to regulate blood sugars. And if the liver is not functioning optimally, then it could be contributing to those cellular doors shutting. We see a lot of fatty liver disease, a lot of congestion in the livers as well, a lot of problems that are going on that you aren't even aware of because you haven't been evaluated thoroughly. The adrenal gland sits on top of the kidneys. One of its most important jobs is to regulate blood sugars. How many of you right now are getting your adrenal gland evaluated on a regular basis by your doctors? My guess is none, or maybe a couple of you. And if they do run the testing, they typically don't run the correct tests that are necessary to evaluate. The thyroid, some of you may be having thyroid issues that could be contributing to why you have, number one, have a thyroid issue, and number two, that's contributing to your diabetes, dysregulation of your blood sugar. Your brain, guys, if you have not heard of type 3 diabetes, you are missing the boat and are putting yourself at major risks for some major disease processes that are at this point are irreversible. Type 3 diabetes is also known as Alzheimer's disease. And every single one of you right now that has type 2 diabetes are at risk of developing Alzheimer's. It doesn't matter if it's in your family or not. You are at risk because the research shows that when you have elevated blood sugars, it starts to create a toxic effect in the brain. The brain starts to downsize over time, increasing the risk of Alzheimer's and dementia. Every single one of you. If that alone should scare the living daylights out of you, because there is no reversal process for Alzheimer's. Very, very detrimental disease. The gastrointestinal tract, right? Obviously, it's where our food is absorbed and digested, but we can see things like infection patterns. We can see things like inflammation, leaky guts, dysbiosis. There are so many things that could be developing in there that are closing and clogging up the doors and increasing your risk for diabetes. We can see hormonal problems, infections, food sensitivities, environmental toxins, biotoxins, heavy metals. This is just a short list, guys. There are so many underlying mechanisms that could be driving the bus that are clogging those doors right now. Unless you get comprehensively evaluated and get a comprehensive diagnosis, I don't mean you have high blood sugars. Great, that's a symptom. But why do you have high blood sugars? We have to understand and get an idea of what your health report card is. Are you in the green? Are you in the yellow? Or are you already in the red? And even though you may not be having all those severe symptoms, these problems are developing. They call diabetes the silent killer for a reason, because people tend to feel really good and then boom, like that, they just feel crummy and they have a heart attack, they have a stroke or some other problem that develops. Don't wait until the symptoms get out of control. See, the goals as a functional healthcare practitioner like myself is to understand what's going on underneath the surface and then create a solution to help you get back to optimal peak performance so your body can function again. Remember, at the beginning of this webinar, I stated that our body was meant to heal. The problem is, for most of you, you're living in an environment that's not conducive to healing. We have to understand what that is for you and get you back to a place where you can get back to peak optimal performance. Now, what does that mean? That means we have to test. And I mean comprehensively test. Not the basic tests your doctors are running on you that's maybe a 1 or 2 pages long. Our tests are anywhere between 10 and 12 pages long, and just from a blood test perspective. But there's lots of tests that can be evaluated. We can do blood work. We can do hormone analysis, adrenal, stool, genetics, immunological testing, biotoxins, environmental toxins, nutrient deficiencies, food sensitivities, leaky gut problems. This is, again, just a short list of tests that we can run. The point I'm trying to get across to you is that unless you're getting comprehensively evaluated, how are you ever going to find out what's truly causing your diabetic condition? You see, the tests that you're currently being ran right now are to evaluate you for 3 things. Number 1, is the medication currently working? Number 2, do you need to increase the dosage of the medication? And number 3, do you need an additional medication? That's referred to management style of care, and that's what you're currently getting. Again, if that's what you're happy with, then you're doing the right things. But if you want to understand what's truly broken inside your body, you have to run comprehensive testing. This doesn't mean we run every single test on every single person. I'm just trying to give you an example of how comprehensive it takes. Now, once we understand what's causing your diabetic condition, then we can create a customized solution. Remember, most of you right now are doing the one-size-fits-all approach, which is never going to get you anywhere. You have to first understand what's causing your problem and then create a customized solution. That's all the way down to what you should be eating. There is no one-size-fits-all approach diet. There's no diabetic diet. We're not talking about a keto diet. We're not talking about paleo or whatever else. Will those things lower blood sugars? Absolutely. Will it reverse your diabetes? No, it won't. You have to use food as a guide to help your body get into an environment that it can heal. And then we can come in with some dense nutrition in the form of a supplement, a nutraceutical, etc., that is specifically going to target the problems that are going on based upon research. I'm not talking about adding in vitamin C, a B complex, or even vitamin D, even though those things may be necessary. I mean, what specifically do you need? What nutraceuticals are necessary to move the body, to move the needle again, to get it functioning healthy optimally again? In some cases, we have to work with individuals and how they sleep. If you're not sleeping throughout the night, you can't heal. Guaranteed. Sleep is very, very important for many, many components in the healing process. If you're dealing with a bunch of stress and you're not able to get rid of that stress or how it's impacting your body, that's going to impact your ability to heal. So oftentimes we have to use techniques to help that individual to deal with that stress so their body can get past that and move into a healing capacity. For 18 years, I've worked with individuals, and over those years, I've been able to fine-tune this process to help individuals truly reverse their disease process. We have an 85 to 95% reversal rate, and there's reasons behind that. But over the years, we've been able to come up with a specific program, which is our diabetes reversal program. It's a 3-step proprietary approach to helping you reverse your diabetes. How do we do it? What's causing your diabetes? Create a customized solution and then help you maintain it for the rest of your life. It's a pretty easy process, but you have to know what to do and how to find the problems that are really going on and then create the right steps. And this is what we did with Paul. You see, when Paul came to me, his motivating factor to reverse his diabetes was because he wanted to spend more time with his family. His why was his family. He was willing to do whatever it took. And he was deep into the insurance model, taking multiple medications for his blood sugars, cholesterol, blood pressure. You know the story. Many of you are on that same regimen. He knew and realized that if he continued down that path, he was never going to reverse his diabetes and it was only going to progress. So he came to me, we evaluated him, did a comprehensive test. We found out exactly what was causing his diabetes, and we created a customized solution for him. And within a few short months, he started seeing some amazing results. His blood sugars improved, his blood pressure improved, he was able to get off medications, and eventually he was able to have a normal A1C, normal blood sugars, and he was off all medications. His energy went from a 3 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10. He was feeling good again. He was spending quality time with his family. If Paul can do this, you can do this. He's not anybody special. He just was open to finding out what the cause was and open and committed to doing whatever it took to reverse his diabetes. If he can do it, you can do it. Now, typically, I like to take a step back during this webinar and just ask you guys, how many of you guys at this point have found the content to be valuable for you? I know that many of you probably came to the webinar today because you were looking for some sort of solution. You're looking for a resolution at this point. But how many of you would be interested in addressing these issues for good? Not just managing them or getting a little bit of results here and there, but I mean actually reversing your diabetes. You know, hopefully right now, every single one of you is raising your hand and kind of excited. You're on the end of your seat at this point because you're so excited about this point. Because if you're not, then what are you doing? What is it that you're looking for? Because the reality is you have two choices. You can continue doing what you're currently doing and hope and pray for a good result, hope and pray that you're not going to have the progressive process, or you can take control of your health and do something different and understand what's truly going on. And for those of you who are in that mindset, who are looking to control your health, what I've done is I've created a comprehensive solution to help you gain progress and momentum to getting your health back again. This is like what we did with Art. When Art came to see me, his A1C was over an 8. The doctor's only option was medications, and that I would have to be diabetic for the rest of my life. Now, 4 months in the program, no more medications. A1C is a 5.3. I have lost 67 pounds, and I'm now wearing clothes that I've not worn in 18 years. I've hit my goals of becoming a non-diabetic, and I'm off all medications. Mike was another one. Before coming to see Dr. Schumard, I was feeling pretty rotten. My blood sugars were nearly 300, taking 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams of metformin, and my doctor was recommending more medication. In the last month working with Dr. Schumard, my blood sugars are now averaging in the 120s. I am looking forward to getting better. And this is just like what happened with Betty. My numbers were out of control before coming to see Dr. Schumard. My Kaiser doctor wanted to put me on insulin. And if I got on insulin, I would lose my job as a school bus driver. Since I started working with Dr. Schumard, my energy has increased, my blood sugar numbers have decreased, and now my doctors are removing my medications. I just love this place so much. I want you to imagine what your life would be like to be a non-diabetic, no longer having to check your blood sugars every single day, not having to worry about a complication developing, not having to worry about, the food you ate the night before, or, did you remember to bring all your medications and your needles and everything you needed for when you're going on your trip, not having to worry about the future complications like blindness, amputation, kidney problems that may need dialysis, heart attacks, strokes, etc., or an early death. And for those of you who are moving forward at this point, what's it going to be like to be a non-diabetic for you? Spending that quality of time that you love in your life with your family, your kids, your grandkids, the things that you love. Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to spend some more time with your church. Maybe you just love your job and you want to continue doing that because it fulfills you. Having to do those things every single day and not having to worry about diabetes, putting it in the rearview mirror for yourself. We can agree that you have diabetes. We can also agree you want to reduce and eliminate your medications, hopefully, unless you like taking medications, and you want to be free of your diabetic condition. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to be starting our Q&A session here. And so what I want you to do is, for those of you who had questions, I can see we've already got about 3 questions in the Q&A right now. But for those of you who had questions that maybe before the webinar started or that came up during the webinar that you want to ask me, make sure that you put your questions in the Q&A. If you put a question in the chat box, there's been a lot of chatter going on there. It's just going to take me too long to go through. So go back into the chat box. If you put a question in there, grab that question, bottom of your screen, so it's easy for me to locate those questions and go through them. And I'll stay on and answer as many questions as possible. So please do not get mad if I don't read your question that you put in the chat box there. Go ahead and grab that question and put it into the Q&A so I can easily see that. And I'll make sure we go through everything here. So I know that we had a couple of questions that came in prior to the webinar. So hopefully those individuals are on the webinar so they can get those questions answered here, but I'm going to go through those now. So Margie asked, please give specific diet and supplement information. I'm not sure what they're asking there. So hopefully if you're on here, Margie, that you realize there is no one-size supplements protocol. There's no one-size dietary protocol. Now, if you're looking to just lower blood sugars, there's lots of things you can do. And if you're looking to just lower blood sugars, then obviously the standard stuff, right? You want to reduce your carbohydrate load, reduce your sugars, reduce inflammatory type foods. And if you're looking for supplements, things like cinnamon, chromium, gymnema, berberine, those sort of things will help, have been shown to reduce blood sugars. Now, will those things help you reverse your diabetes? No. But again, if you're just looking to lower blood sugars, then you can do those types of things. Those will give you some really good benefit there, Margie. But if you're looking to reverse your diabetes, it takes a much more deeper approach because we're looking for what's causing those doors to be shut at a cellular level in your body. So Kenneth says, pre-dawn diabetes numbers are running 200. Is there an easy way to get rid of that high numbers? No, Kenneth, there is no easy way to do anything with diabetes because diabetes is a progressive disease process that increases the risk of you dying. So if you want to actually find out what's causing your elevated blood sugars to go up to 200 plus, then we need to run extensive analysis, extensive testing to find out what's causing that for you to create the customized solution for your needs. Mary says, what's the best way to keep sugars from yo-yoing? Well, again, the best way to keep sugars from yo-yoing, Mary, is to find out what's causing those sugars to yo-yo. Now, if they're going up and down because you have a terrible diet, well, then that's where you want to start with. Again, if you're just trying to lower blood sugars. But again, if your goal is to not only reduce blood sugars, but normalize things inside your body, it's a completely different approach that's necessary. And then Elizabeth Thomas says, how can I eat right? Again, the standard stuff of how you should be eating based upon what's being recommended for diabetics is a really good option. Again, if that's what you're looking for, just the proper diet, then I would say you want to reduce inflammatory type foods, things like dairy, things like grains, things like gluten, soy, those are very inflammatory. Obviously, reducing your carbohydrate loads as well. Those will help reduce blood sugars inside your body. But again, that's a very difficult lifestyle to live. And once you stop it, your blood sugar is going to go right back up, which means not creating a long-term solution. So here's a question here from Mo. It says, how can I increase my GFR? That is a kidney filtration situation. prevent it from decreasing. Well, GFR decreases because for most people, I'm assuming, Mo, you have diabetes. And as more sugar starts to go through the kidneys, it destroys and kills the kidneys over time, as well as the diabetic condition will destroy it over time. This is what exactly happened to my mom. Even though she had an A1C in the sixes pretty much the entire time she was diabetic. But because the focus was only on lowering blood sugars and not the disease itself, her kidneys failed over time. That's more than likely what's happening to you right now, Mo, as well. Okay. Okay, so Fernando is asking, even though I'm pre-diabetic, can this help me out, doctor? Yes, this can help you out. But I can tell you, Fernando, that we tend to not evaluate pre-diabetics. And the reason for that is that there are so many people with diabetes right now that they need to have the opportunity first, because they're at most risk of these major issues for diabetic conditions. So we typically will save those appointments for individuals who are diagnosed with diabetes, and we don't really rarely evaluate pre-diabetics in our office. I'm interested in buying the medication to lower my blood sugar in my body. Where can I buy that medication, doctor? I'm ready, but it's so there is no medication, Fernando, that we recommend. What we do is we do a comprehensive analysis to find out what's causing your diabetic condition. And then we use natural remedies, right? So we use dense nutrition in the form of a supplement or an herb or nutraceutical based upon research to address the problems that are found on the testing. So there's nothing specific that we give you to lower your blood sugars. We address the problems that are causing your elevated blood sugars and help those heal, getting your body back to a place where it can manage it on its own. And those doors at a cellular level will start opening and closing normally again, and you start regulating your own blood sugars once again. It's pretty amazing process, very easy process, but it does require work. It does require energy. It does require commitment on your part. Aaron says, I don't want to start insulin. My doctor is wanting to put me on it. Yeah, like I said, Aaron, at the beginning of the webinar, all roads, well, I should say majority and most diabetics will eventually lead to insulin, because diabetes is a progressive disease process. And I don't mean elevated blood sugars. It means that more and more of those cells are being blocked and the doors from opening and closing to allow the sugars to come in. And when you have more cells breaking down, not only does it create elevated blood sugars over time and the progression of the disease, and eventually the only option is more insulin or increase in insulin, but it also increases the risk of complications developing. That's why things happen over time. And as they get worse, things happen very, very rapidly. So people typically won't feel a lot of symptoms or problems initially, but eventually they will, no matter what they do, right? So this is an important concept here. I don't care if you're eating properly. I don't care if you have normal blood sugars right now. I don't care if you're exercising, you're losing weight. That will not reverse your diabetes. The disease will progress. I guarantee it. I have seen it all the time. Individuals come to me, well, my blood sugars are being regulated right now. I'm like, yeah, but you're taking 3 medications. Yeah, but I feel fine. Well, great. If you feel fine, then why do anything, right? If you want to wait till you're about to cut off your leg, it's too late, guys. You have to take advantage of it now. If this disease is not a problem for you right now, even though you may not have all the complications, it's never going to be a problem for you. And usually we're not going to take those types of individuals on. Anonymous says, how long would it take to reverse if we do everything what you said? It depends on the situation, Anonymous. We have some people who reverse their diabetes within, say, 3 to 4 months, and others who take up to 12 plus months. So again, it depends on the problems that are going on, right? This is not a one-size-fits-all approach. We're not just trying to lower blood sugars. We're trying to unravel and heal all the problems that have been developing over the years and decades inside your body. So in some cases, it could take longer than others. Anonymous says, how metformin from metformin extended different? So the only difference between the two is that one is released very quickly and one is released over time to help you stabilize your blood sugars and your body. And Violet says, my A1C is 9.4. I don't like it. So Violet, that is a significant problem. Just so you guys know, A normal A1C, meaning no medication and normal blood sugars, is a 5.2 to 5.6. That's no medication. 5.7 to 6.4 is considered prediabetes. 6.5 and above is a diagnosis for diabetes. A 7 and above means that your diabetes is out of control, that things are moving very rapidly and you are at a very high risk of major complications developing. So Violet at a 9.4, you're in a significant health risk there. Unless you take action quickly, you're at risk of major problems developing. Balua says, how do I lower my A1C? I think I've answered that question. Anonymous, my weight is 89. I don't need to lose any more weight. I agree with you. Why do I have diabetes? This is a perfect example that we know that weight is not the cause of diabetes. If weight were the cause of diabetes, then every single person who was overweight and obese would be diabetic. And do we see that? No, we don't see that. We see individuals that are skinny, like you, Anonymous. We see individuals who are completely obese that don't have diabetes at all. So that just tells us that the weight is a contributing factor, but it's not the cause of your diabetic condition. And in your situation, Aaron says, so I have lost the weight, but I'm still dealing with the condition. And thank you for acknowledging my questions about the insulin. You're very welcome, Aaron. So that's fantastic. You've lost the weight. Again, losing weight is important, but is losing weight specific to diabetes? No, losing weight is important for all of us to have. We should all have a normal size weight to make sure that it reduces the pressure on our organs, on our joints, and increasing risk factors that are involved with weight gain. So again, you will lower blood sugars by losing weight, but it will not create a solution for you long term. Yeah, I understand. Anne says it's hard to budget. That's all. I completely understand, Anne. And I don't know your specific situation. I don't know what's going on with you. Again, I don't know what testing you need. There's a lot of specifics that are required here. And it's hard to give you a budget at this point because I don't know what's going on with your specific condition. I wish there was a one-size-fits-all approach, guys. I can just tell you, but I can tell you with absolute certainty, you're not going to reverse your diabetes that way. A man says, will you address Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, menopause? Yes. And all of those things you said right there, Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, menopause, and celiac are all contributing factors to your diabetic condition. Guaranteed. But on top of that, we have to understand, remember, Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disease, which means that your immune system is attacking and destroying and killing your thyroid. Well, your immune system's not supposed to do that. So something is contributing to that. Something is causing your immune system to attack your body. That could be contributing to your cells being blocked as well as a diabetic condition. So all these things are linked. So hopefully you're able to pull the trigger here and move forward. Looks like you've got some significant problems going on there. Aaron says, in fact, I'm at a point where I need to gain weight and it seems difficult to gain. Yeah, it's not uncommon for some diabetics, Aaron. And so definitely there's something going on under the surface there. JD, fantastic, buddy. I look forward to seeing you on the 17th. Anonymous says, so either metformin or extended can cause cancer. All medications have relative risk factors. They all have side effects. They all can increase. They have some of them have the risk of increasing the risk of cancer, et cetera. Oftentimes, metformin impacts the liver, can impact the gut, and digestive tract as well. Those are the most common in kidney as well. Anonymous is saying, because my doctor said extended can cure cancer. True. I have no idea if that's the case or not. I don't work with anybody who has cancer. It's just not a condition that we work with in our office. Sassy Nurse says, will have MS interfere with my journey? Will having MS interfere with my journey? MS, again, is a autoimmune disease. The immune system is attacking, destroying your nervous system. Again, that should not happen. There is something going on inside your body that is triggering or antagonizing the immune system to attack your body. We have to understand what that is. And I can guarantee you this, Sassy Nurse, I love the name, is that whatever that is also contributing to your blood sugar dysregulation, your diabetes. They are all intertwined. We see this all the time. So no, it does not interfere with your journey. Violet says, how could I get solutions? Could you check my cells? Where is your office located? So Violet, what we evaluate for is to find out what is causing the doors at your cells to be blocked. And we run the proper testing on you, whatever that testing might be for you. We can start to unravel and see specifically what is blocking those doors inside your system. So no, you do not need to come to my office. All of the testing can be ran from wherever you are in the country. We use labs that are very accessible to individuals, that can be accessible anywhere in the country. All of our practice is done virtually. We've been doing this for many, many years. We've helped thousands of people across the country reverse their diabetic condition. So you're not required to come to my office at all. Okay. Eritrea says my A1C is 6.1. Would it be possible to lower to normal range in 7 weeks? I don't know, Eritrea. Without knowing exactly what's going on and why you have an elevated A1C in the first place. If you have a lot of problems, then no, you can't reverse it in 7 weeks. If there's minimal problems, maybe that's the case, but without like really looking at, digging in and finding out, like looking under the hood, if you will. It's like calling your mechanic and saying, hey, my car is not working. Can you have it fixed by the end of the day? And they're like, well, what's wrong with it? They're like, I don't know, it doesn't work. Right. And so until you take your car to the mechanic and they open the hood and they do an investigative process, that's the only time they can tell you what the problem is and how long it's going to take to fix the situation. It's no different than your body, right? We're not talking about just lowering blood sugars. Now, if your goal is to just lower blood sugars, there are lots of things you can do to just lower blood sugars. But if your goal is to reverse your disease and actually fix the problems, it could take a lot longer than 7 weeks. Anonymous says, so you don't take Medicaid or Medicare, any kind of insurance? So good question, Anonymous. So we do accept insurance in our practice. It doesn't mean that your insurance is going to cover what we do in our practice, because I don't know. And what we've seen over the years is less and less and less insurance coverage. So I will tell you this, Anonymous, that if your intention or your goals are to only do what your medical insurance is willing to pay for, then I can tell you with absolute certainty, I am not your doctor. Again, it's not because I'm saying that you're not going to have any coverage, but what I'm saying is that your mindset, if it's not, well, I'm willing to do whatever it takes, even though my insurance may not cover this, then you're not going to be a good fit for what we do in our practice. So keeping that in mind, that if your goal is to only do what your insurance is willing to cover, it's probably only going to cover what you're currently doing in the standard of care, and it's not going to cover the reversal process, which is very sad, right? Because we have such a high success rate, and you would think that insurances would want to cover that, but many of them don't feel like that's medically necessary, and they would rather cover your medications, your hospitalizations, your amputations, et cetera, rather than helping you get better. It's just a sad truth, but our medical system is broken. Damon says, how much sleep is not enough? So what the research states, Damon, is that a minimum 6 hours and a maximum of 8 hours. And what they have found is that if you're getting less than 6 hours or more than 8 hours, it not only impacts your cardiovascular system, but it can actually impact your brain as well. So your body needs that time period between 6 and 8 hours of sleep to regenerate, to break down cells and get rid of old cells, bring in new cells, hormone productions, all the things that are necessary for your body to go through a healing process when you're sleeping. And if you're not getting that, then you're getting that deprivation and your body can't heal. And over time, it can become sicker and sicker and sicker. So hopefully that answers your question, Damien. Okay, we've got some amazing questions tonight. So I have gone through all the questions. If there's no other questions at this time, I will go ahead and close up the webinar for today. You guys had some amazing questions, and I appreciate that. It's really helpful. And I'm sure other people got some incredible value out of hearing those questions as well. So hopefully that today was worth your time and you were able to get some incredible value. Have yourself a great rest of your day. And thanks for joining us today. Take care.